Welcome back. Well, much has been written about the illicit love affair between Labor's longest-serving Prime Minister, the late Bob Hawke, and writer Blanche. But only after the fact, and when their 21-year-old secret affair was made public, the nation was in shock. Blanche was hated by many. Her explanations and even her writing, though, have gone a long way to making up with the Australian public. But right now, she's battling a whole new foe, breast cancer, and she's determined to win. Blanche, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Chris.
How are you feeling? I want to know.
I'm feeling great.
This is not an arduous process for you?
Not at all.
That's good. But what an 18 months it's been. When you go back to May last year and then think about that 18 months, plus COVID, plus...
Cancer.
Cancer?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Did you ever feel like as if you wanted to give up?
When I was first diagnosed, yeah. It's such a shock to get a cancer diagnosis. So for about 3 days, I thought, well, I just won't have any treatment, and what you think is, and then I'll be dead in 2 weeks. But then I discovered, no, it'll go from your breast to your lung to maybe to your brain, and there was no way I could do that to my son, my darling son.
But understandably so that you'd feel that way because you were still grieving.
Well, yes.
You're in the midst of all of that.
Yes, I was. So Bob had a very good death, you know.
Yeah.
A really good death.
Not a painful death?
Not a painful death,
right.
No. And it was wonderful. The moment he died, it was so uplifting. It was as if his spirit had just whooshed out of his body. There were 2 other people in the room with me, and all of us suddenly felt joyous.
Wow, what an interesting way to perceive someone's passing. You've got to watch carefully for any reoccurrence now, right? That's the stage you're up to with the cancer?
Well, the surgeon reckoned he got it all, and I'm now on what's called immunotherapy, which is to train my immune system to recognise any cancer cells and come out and give them a good punch in the nose.
Yeah, right.
And I'll be on that until mid-January next year. It's not great, but there you go.
But there's a lesson in all of this, and I love the fact that you can, give some wisdom and some information to women who might be on hormone replacement therapy, because that's what you reverted to after Bob passed away. And was that a contributing factor in the cancer? No,
listen, Chris, you've got to get it right. I had been on HRT for 20 years. Very conservative dose, but it did make me feel really good. When Bob died, I moved house and moved doctor, and my new doctor quadrupled the dose that I was on. So within 5 months, I had triple positive to hormone breast cancer.
Right.
So I think really the very long period I was on HRT probably built a pile of firewood, and then the tripling of the dose was throwing a match into it.
Yeah.
So I would say be conservative and probably don't go on it so long.
Now, let's bring in Brendan Nelson, who you know, and Brendan, you know Blanche as well.
Yes.
I want to see what side of the fence you were on, Brendan, because 1 minute you're voting for Labor, next minute you're voting Liberal. In 87 you say you voted for John Howard, but in 83 did you vote for Bob Hawke?
In 83, yes, I did.
Of course.
And, yes, I'd been a Labor voter up until 87, Chris. And there's look, and in the Liberal Party family, there is an immense respect for Bob. And Blanche, I remember when we were in government, John Howard quite regularly, in fact, would say to our party room or to our cabinet, Bob would come up and John Howard would say he's the most formidable political opponent I've ever faced. And he did so with great respect. And that's largely how the Liberal Party family feels about Bob. And we look back on that period of reform that we had through, doesn't mean we agree with everything that was done, but the Hawke and Keating and then the Howard governments, the substantial reform that set the country up.
Yes, that's right. And Bob and John always got on very well afterwards. They used to appear on stages together and talking about the economy and so forth. So they were quite mateys, maybe too strong a word, but they had a very distinct regard for each other.
But both of them, you talk about Bob Hawke and you think about John Howard, they were men who could get things done. Yep. Blanche, you know, we've had some wishy-washy prime ministers in between, after, before, that didn't seem to be able to get things done or change what they believed in to try and get a compromise.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's true.
Brendan, I want to know the illicit affair that went on for so long, 21 years, was it Canberra's best-kept secret or worst-kept secret?
There's no point asking me. Whatever I followed in Canberra, it wasn't that sort of thing. And look... The general, by the way, Chris, I think it preceded, I didn't arrive in Canberra as a Member of Parliament until 1996, and I started going to Canberra AMA business in 1990. Firstly, I wasn't interested in that kind of thing, shall I say, but also I didn't hear anything about it. But that was a period too where the privacy of people's lives was respected.
Yeah.
That is right. The privacy was respected.
Because you had federal political journalists who knew exactly what was going on for quite some time.
A few. There was one in particular, Paul Kelly, because I told him, he was a buddy. He never said a word about it when he could have. When there were moments when he could have written about it, he kept absolutely quiet. Yes.
It would be different today, would it not, Brendan?
I suspect so, Chris. Look, there's still quite a degree of respect for the privacy of people's lives, but I think the judgment has become that if it is impacting on discharging public responsibility, then I think more people in the media and others in the political class feel that they get these stories out.
Yeah, yeah.
My own view is people's private lives is their own business and best left alone.
Yeah. You've gone through a lot, Blanche, because I remembered the wedding. It was true that Bob's children wore black to that wedding. Mm-hmm. Did you find that insulting? Did you find it something that was part of the overall negativity towards your involvement in his life?
Yes, of course it was. And
you had to cope with it?
I found it rather childish, I must say, and ill-mannered. But that was that. They were very distressed, and although they were adults, they were still thinking like teenagers, I think, at the time. Yeah. After
that, you spent 15 years basically following Bob around the world. But here you had your own incredibly well-established career, didn't you? That was a lot to sacrifice.
Yes, my writing career. But when you say following him around the world, I was a director of our company. So I was working when we were travelling. And it wasn't as if I was there as a handbag. I was...
you played a significant role in that company.
I sure did.
Yeah. And the writing has continued, because I can't believe you're going through all of this trauma in the last 18 months, as we've mentioned. And there are 2 books that have come out, 2 of the quintet that you've written, based on Henry II. They've come out. You're working, as I understand it, this is supposed to be hush-hush. I'm not supposed to raise this, but you're working on another book already.
That's true.
You're in the library almost every day, am I right?
Well, I wish it could be every day, but almost, yes.
How are you finding the courage to get straight back into it like that?
Oh, I'm a writer. Writers feel happy when they're writing or researching for a book. Yeah.
Are you keeping a close eye on the politics in this country, like you would have every time that Bob picked up the paper of a morning or turned on the radio? He was right across everything, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. He used to read 4 newspapers every day, cover to cover. Well, I don't know, cover to cover, but yes, I take a keen interest in what's happening, yes, and what's happening globally too. Yeah. Geopolitics was one of our great mutual joys.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about China with you, because you'd been there dozens and dozens of times with Bob, and it's sad the way the relationship has been reduced as much as it has in recent times. I think there's probably a little bit of fault on both sides, probably more on the Chinese side. Would you agree?
I certainly would.
Yeah.
China's changed. Bob went there 106 times. It is no longer the China that he used to go to. Which is I think it's unfortunate it's unfortunate for our relationship with them. We can't be the friends that we were for them before. And long term, well, they may be making a mighty empire, but they haven't got any friends. And Australia was a genuine friend to China. And even mighty empires need friends. The Americans, up until their empire is crumbling, but they made sure they had friends. They had accords with all sorts of different groups of people. But the Chinese don't have that. And they've just got cupboard love from some of the Belt and Road people. Belt and Road companies.
Yes, exactly. And Brendan, in your job now, you've got to put the blinkers on, go straight forward and think about the corporate relationship you have with China and their various subsidiaries, and you've got to forget about the other noise and the international politics that's going on. It's a different approach than what you normally would take.
Well, yes, to some extent, Chris. And coming back, by the way, to Bob Hawke and John Howard, both of those Prime Ministers did an enormous amount to build the foundation for the relationship that Australia has with China. And we're going through a difficult period. China is re-emerging. We're about to live in a world we've not lived in since the Franco-Prussian War or the Qing dynasty. But in aviation, China is an extraordinarily important part of the global market, and we're very proud, Boeing that is, very proud of the relationship that we have had and have with China and Chinese airlines. So it's the real tensions are essentially in the US-China relationship, and that's something obviously we have a great interest in and we're all impacted by.
There were times in the 80s where the only way you'd get around on, the great New Year's celebrations in China would be by train. So at every railway station they'd line up in their tens of thousands to go on their major journey. But now they turn up to the airport, Brendan.
Yes, well, the demand for air travel in China, domestically and indeed internationally in normal circumstances, is immense, and it's growing very quickly, which is a reflection of the fact that Chinese people have been coming out of poverty. There is a relatively much greater degree of affluence, and the Chinese government continues to do everything that it can, and we understand why it needs to grow its economy, to pull people out of poverty, and to create in the order of 25 million jobs every year. It's extremely important. And the extent to which we as Australians or companies, if you like, have been able to assist China in that regard is something that's been an immense benefit to them. But at the moment we can see the tensions that are being played out, and I think for Australians, I think we have to be clear about who we are, our values and what it is we believe, the things that we are steadfast in and we stand up for. But I also think that you've got to have this imaginative capacity in life to see the world through the eyes of other people and through the eyes of other nations. And I think the extent that we're able to, we need to see the world through the eyes of other countries, including China.
Yeah, a little bit of forgive and forget, Blanche, wouldn't go astray right now.
Exactly, yes. I agree with Brendan on that.
Yeah, let's hope that things do improve.